Hello there, beautiful humans. Melinda Joy, Crossroads Storyteller here with a VR hashtag. This is my second ever, and this is the hashtag 10 sephiroth for 10 decks for 10 sephiroth. Like I said, I don't do a whole lot of VRs. I actually am on YouTube primarily to create emotional freedom technique or tapping videos connected to tarot. So if that piques your interest at all, definitely check out the rest of my channel. But let's get on with what you're actually here for. So like Meg with Rose Honey Ritual, who was one of the creators of this tag, I'm not here to teach you anything, but I do want to share some resources that have been incredibly helpful for my learning experience. And they are primarily video recordings that you can find with at 22 Teachings or 22teachings.com. It's a Hermetic Qabalah lodge that physical location is in LA, Los Angeles, California. However, they have a lot of virtual opportunities. And so even though I don't live in Los Angeles, I still participate. And those resources that are really helpful for this tag or learning this kind of content, I found the Hermetic Qabalah series. It's several classes, somewhere between like 7 and 12 classes, but just two chunks, and then they're like a series of classes each. Okay, and then honestly, showing up to lodge every Saturday morning at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, that has, just because it gives me a chance to work with all of these concepts and use all of these words on a really regular basis, and it's just transformative, and I am positive I would not know nearly as much information about the Tree of Life had I not attended Lodge weekly. So yes, that's still a thing I do. If you want to see my face, you can find it there. So yes, let's continue. I grabbed this book for reference. There's lots of good books out there, but this one is just the one I wanted to use today. This picture shows you how there's like the aces are connected to Ketter and the twos, and here's where the Empress lives and strength, etc. They've all got a Hebrew letter. This one's Zadi. This one's Resh. They've all got a zodiac connection. This one is Leo. This one's the moon. This one is Aries, etc. Okay. And then we'll see. I don't think I'm going to use the keywords quite as much, but here is a more precise breakdown of the sephiroth, or the spheres of the tree. And that is what is, that's what we're doing today. So I decided to do it pillar at a time. So first we're going to do the pillar of severity. And I want to start at the bottom with Hod. And here, I'm a little bit less organized than I thought I was. So I picked the transparent tarot for Hod. And honestly, I use the transparent tarot significantly less so for divination and more so for studying, which I thought was also really relevant to Hod, which is Mercury. This deck requires a clean background. Oh, I forgot to mention, the other super helpful resource for getting to know the sephiroth or any other part of the tree is pathworking. And by that, I mean the Hermetic, like, astral projection path working. I know a whole bunch of humans on YouTube talk about path working on YouTube, and I totally acknowledge, I'm sure you're doing path working, but I don't know that it's what I mean by path working. So what I mean is the Hermetic Qabalah practice of astral projecting onto the tree of life. So yes, that is a super helpful way to get to know the tree of life also. Okay, so continuing with Hode. Part of why this is my Hode deck is because you can just make it as complicated as you want to. You can just like keep layering it on. And I feel like Hode, at least, okay, I have Mercury in Virgo, so I'm sure that will shed a little bit of light on my experience of Hode, which is associated with Mercury. But yeah, the details definitely matter, and like being able to like, okay, I see this complex concept, and now I can like break it apart and look at all of the pieces of this complex picture, and then if I want to, I can put it all back together again. Like that's a very Hode way of being in my perspective. Oh, I also meant to mention that the way I picked my cards was I chose the decks that reminded me of my experience of the sephiroth or the spheres. I really appreciated the way some other people were picking their cards, and I almost did it some of their ways, but I decided, of course, to stick with my authentic way of being, which I think is a really good way to go most of the time. So, The Transparent Tarot by Emily Carding for Hode. Next deck. Above Hode is Qabalah or Severity. And I almost chose the deck that Wendy chose for this deck, or sorry, for this sphere. I don't want to give away Wendy's video. But yeah, that was a really good choice in my opinion. What I decided to go with, I'll see if I can remember the name of this deck because I got it from Game Crafters and there's no box or book or anything. There is a book, or sorry, there's like words descriptions on online, but I haven't printed it off and made my own booklet yet. Oh darn. This is the I'm gonna have to put the name in the description because I can't remember. Something about mighty something. Okay, anyways, I'm gonna describe why I think it fits for Qabalah and the sphere of severity, and a little context for why I even have this deck. So I grew up in a fundamentalist Protestant denomination, which means that the Bible and the biblical text was really, oh, here, you can't see those, was really central in my experience of life in church and school and everything. And so, of course, I think that I'm going to make a biblical, or maybe more than one, maybe multiple biblical tarot decks at some point. I'm not sure. We'll see when it happens. And so I got this deck for sort of like research purposes, because I don't entirely agree with this particular interpretation of some of these concepts, but I thought this deck was so perfect for severity because it's like steeped in, for lack of a more precise term, the sort of Hebrew Bible fierceness, like, right? Like, this is obviously David and Goliath, but it's not just David and Goliath. It's David and Goliath after David killed Goliath and chopped off his head. So yeah, this deck does not hide away from the severe. Like I said, the title has something about the mighty in the title. So yeah, I thought this was quite martial, quite Gavora-ish. Someday I'll study it just a little bit more thoroughly so I can critique the hell out of it and know exactly how I want to make my deck. But until then, here it is. So, next sphere is Binah. And I absolutely loved what Meg from Rose Honey Ritual chose. I almost chose that deck. It was like hanging out in the front of my mind while I was choosing decks, and then I saw this deck, and so I chose it. It is the Dark Goddess Tarot by Ellen Lorenzi Prince. And for me, Binah is where the Dark Goddess lives. It's, yeah. Saturn. I've also been exploring, thinking of Saturn as a more feminine quality, because right, it's the mother on the tree, and it's the first sphere of form, even though it's above the abyss, so form takes on a little bit of a different meaning, but you know, still the Dark Mother. And I absolutely love this deck. I did have some trouble, I think because I got it used and it had like lived in some like fluctuating temperatures or something. So I had some trouble like separating the cards from each other. But I don't care. I absolutely love this deck. I actually use it to explore my emotions because I'm a moon in Aquarius. Sometimes the emotions are hard to feel for me. So I use this deck every morning and stare at it, whatever card I pulled, for 5 whole minutes each morning. And that's how I tend to my emotional body even when I don't want to. So that was the Dark Goddess Tarot for Binah. Now, let's transition to the Pillar of Mercy. And the first sphere is Netstock. And for Netstock, this deck was so super obvious to me. This deck is a little bit unique. Ren, the creator, does things like associate wands with air and swords with fire, and you know, so it's a little bit unique. It's not like a Hermetic tarot, but I absolutely love that they're square, so I can read them. I can like pull the cards this way or this way or this way or this way. Okay, but that's not why I think it fits for Netstock. Why I think it fits for Netstock is that this deck is all about connection and relationship. And it's called the Mother Tarot, or just Mother Tarot. But like Ren says, this deck is not exclusively for literal mothers. This deck is also for anyone who's like working on mothering themselves, just working on that archetype. And yeah, I feel like this deck has a lot of emphasis on connection and like authentic connection, authentic relating, and you know, therefore authentic love and victory in love. What is victory in love but if not authentic, delicious, generative connections with others? That's one of my favorite cards, the Two of Cups. Okay, so the Mother Tarot by Ren here. I'm not sure how to say Ren's last name, so McMurdo. Yeah, you've got it. If you want it, you've got it. Next on the tree, or this pillar of mercy, is Hesed. I absolutely love Hesed. I mean, I absolutely love the whole mercy pillar. So for Hesed, I picked the Numinous Tarot. And the reason for that is because this deck is just so abundant in symbols and colors, and the guidebook is delicious. It's so is there a good way to describe the guidebook? I just enjoy it. I just finished doing a one card at a time practice with this deck. I pulled one card every day until I had gone through the entire deck and read about each card and felt into how it was connected to my day. So that's why it's still in order. But in addition to this deck just being like voluptuously present, it's all of the colors, all of the esoteric symbols are in here. I love that labyrinth. Just like chock full. But then in addition to that, this deck is expansive in the sense that it has all of the diversity, and it's not like a forced kind of diversity. It's just authentic bigness, all of the bigness that our society needs to support everyone else who's still stuck in their box of what they think it means to be authentic, or what it means to be alive today. So here's just a really good example of a really seamless diversity. This person is clearly differently abled, but the artwork sort of took that into consideration and included it. This is the Two of Candles, and there's two walking sticks, each with candles on them. Like, it's just brilliant. Things that I didn't even think of as important for diversity are in this deck. Like scars from self-harm are in this deck. Of course, all of the gender, sexuality diversity. Of course, all of the race diversity. But yeah, it's just brilliantly expansive. That was the Numinous Tarot for Hesed. Also, Hesed is fun to say. And the last deck, the last sphere on the Pillar of Mercy is Hokma. And hokma is sometimes associated with the zodiac, and for that reason, I almost chose the Stars Divine by the Lioness Oracle. However, that's an oracle deck, which I wasn't trying to like exclude, but I found the just right deck. And you may be familiar with this deck because it's the one I use for my monthly readings on YouTube, as well as all of the tapping that we do, because this guidebook has brilliant affirmations for each card. But hokma is also, in addition to being associated with the zodiac, the BOTA, Builders of the Adytum system, also adds Uranus to hokma. Hokma. And I thought this deck was just so perfectly Uranian. And it's not only Uranian in that it is pushing or presenting a kind of knowing that is beyond the knowing of our Western colonial societies, but it also breaks the mold of tarot. This is a good example. This card is the Essence of Air, which, you know, is not in the normal tarot deck, but I absolutely love it. I find this deck incredibly relevant and like fluent with all of the really heady Hermetic decks. And it's just so down to earth and breaks the mold that my brain has been stuck on because it thinks there's no other way to do it. Oh, and I also forgot to mention this deck has several fools and several multiverses. The whole idea of this deck is to claim your personal, authentic, unique foolhood and an invitation to manifest your unique special multiverse. The idea being that if we all can be our most authentic selves and do what we can to create the environment that best meets that authentic self, the closer we will be to liberation and freedom and honoring everyone who lives in our societies and not just the ones that fit what people think is supposed to be or quote unquote normal. I also appreciate that there's like the generator instead of the chariot, but like look at this. We've got this crab. The crab is Cancer, and that is an association for the chariot. So that's a occult association, right? So this is not just a commentary on society. It's also rich in the occult. Okay. That was the Creative Liberation Now deck. And this deck was created by Amani Will or Amani Way, as well as Amutabi. I don't remember Amutabi's last name. And Seneca. It was a team effort, and it continues to be a team effort. So yeah. Now for the pillar in the middle. The middle pillar. We've got Malkut at the bottom. And so for Malkut, I chose the Next World Tarot. And I chose this deck because, not only does it super intentionally honor all that is in the actual physical plane, but it also honors the Ketter, the crown that is in Malkuth. It honors the beauty in humanity. It honors the beauty in, living from our divine knowing. I love this card. I mean, I love all the cards, but this is Moon in Aquarius, like me. Oh, and yeah, I chose this deck for Malkuth because I feel like it is a uniquely authentic, or uniquely accurate look at what our world, what our society is actually like, as well as all of the brilliance available to us despite all of those difficult qualities that are here, that are present. So, The Next World Tarot by Christy Road. I think it might be Christy Road, because I always want to say Crowed. And I believe there's a smaller deck now available. When I got this deck, this was the only size, but I really enjoy how big it is and how many of the details of the cards I get to see. So the next sphere on the middle pillar is Yasuod, and this Yasuod foundation sphere is related to the moon. And so for that reason, I chose Animal Woman by the Storyteller Medicine. And part of why I chose this deck is because there's a lot of womb and blood imagery. Here we have oh man, the word is placenta. Here we have a placenta. If you look closely, there's a red string here. Here's a super obvious red road to Placenta Mountain. So yes, we've got this emphasis on bleeding and the cycle of bleeding. And like Jessica Zinchuk says, just because you don't bleed doesn't mean this deck isn't for you, because everyone is living in a cyclical body. Everyone is experiencing the cycles of the moon. And everyone is experiencing living on this planet, which is for sure affected by the moon, right? The moon affects the tides, which, I mean, the ocean is a really big theme in this deck also. Jessica Zinchuk has a whole mythology focused around the kelp mother of the ocean, and I'm super into it, even though it's not the system I subscribe to. I still get so much out of it. This card is so fierce. And in addition to this deck honoring cycles, this deck for sure honors the unseen that directly affects our physical reality, and the ideas that we hold that affect our reality, and our emotions that we hold on to instead of letting flow, and how that affects our physical reality. It's just a brilliant deck. Oh, I love how I can feel Jessica's personal gnosis through this deck, and that there's these keywords. I like to tap with the keywords on occasion, and instead of a guidebook, this deck has stories on YouTube that are also brilliant. So I love the whole concept behind this, and I think it super seamlessly goes with Yasuod. Okay, for timing purposes, we're just gonna move on to Tiferet, and I'm not gonna show you the tree no more. So Tiferet has to do with beauty, it's the sun, and I chose this deck, which is, let's see, Desert Illuminations. Yeah, I think I'm going to have to put the name of the creator in the descriptions because I don't remember her name off the top of my head. But I chose this deck for Tiferet because not only is Tiferet above the veil, which these, especially this pentacle suit, makes me think of a way of knowing that and a way of being that is beyond the veil. But also this deck is bright and beautiful. I think it's super clear that the creator imbued it with her authentic self, which is also about Tiferet, authenticity, being true to yourself, Christ consciousness, all of these things. And I also really appreciate how this deck is, oh, you might be able to hear my babe. She's outside playing with her dad. But yeah, this deck oozes to me the beauty and authenticity, and I feel like the creator also sort of, she didn't change the system, like it's the same structure as any other tarot deck, but she really played with, well, she just really played with the imagery. Oh, this is only my most favorite card in this deck. I got this deck thinking it was the coolest deck ever, and then I found this card and my mind just got blown. This is Bill Hickok and Calamity Jane. And I just absolutely love Calamity Jane. I must have some like past life connection to her because there's absolutely no reason. I just saw a random TV musical from like the 60s or something like that, and Calamity Jane was the primary character, and I fell in love instantly. It was like even the middle of the movie. I had to watch it all over again to catch the plot line. But yeah, I'm into that deck a lot, if you couldn't tell. Last sphere is Ketter, and Ketter is the sphere of unity. It is before any separation has occurred. And so for that reason, I chose the Minoan Tarot by Ellen Lorenzi Prince. When I first pulled this deck out to start working with it, I did one of those exercises where I pulled out all of the cards that I understood and felt really clear with, and then had a different pile for all the cards that I didn't fully know. And there were so many cards in my I don't get this pile because this deck is so uniquely different. It is based off of Minoan art. And Ellen really intentionally did not change the art. That's why we have things like the Sky of Ace with 2 different creatures on it. That just like threw me for a loop for a while. I thought that I was gonna like mod the deck by cutting off the edges, but things like that make it really hard for me to know the meaning of the card without seeing the title. So we're gonna keep the titles on for a mo. But the whole point of this deck being for hokma, sorry, not hokma, Ketter, is that this time period there was a lot more unity. I mean, not everywhere, but within Crete and the Minoan culture, there was a lot of peace and prosperity and intentionally working together. This deck also plays with gender. This particular card is clearly gender neutral, or very much not a man or a woman kind of image, which you wouldn't know unless you read the guidebook like I have. But this deck for sure does a lot of blending of the polarities and unifying the opposites, and that for sure is a Ketter experience for me. So there you have it, 10 decks for 10 sephiroth, and my longest video to date. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope that you enjoy all of the other people working with this tag. I for sure am going to keep up and watch all of the videos about this tag, because this tag is so much fun. Thank you so much to Rose Honey Ritual for creating the tag, and all the other humans involved in manifesting it.